Riots in America. Where does it all lead? What does it mean for the next presidential election? I have Farron Cousins with me. We're going to talk about this. Farron, you know, this is complicated. It's tough to do in 8 minutes to round all this out. But as I was watching a couple of commentaries, the thing that struck me was Rick Perlstein. You and I did, actually, we interviewed Rick Perlstein, my memory is, who wrote Nixonland. And as I look at Nixonland, it plays right into what I see happening. What is your take on it?
I think there's a lot of moving parts to this, obviously. You know, we've got the actions of the police officers, not just the one, you know, who killed George Floyd, but what's been happening since then, the videos of all of that, the videos of people, you know, looting a Target, walking out with Lego sets, as if that's important to what's happening. So there's a lot of different angles to this. There's a lot of different sides to it. But I think overall, for me personally, the biggest issue is the death of George Floyd, the death of too many African-American men and women at the hands of these officers. There's no justice for them hardly ever. Yeah. But this has evolved into so much more than that. And I don't think a lot of that was intentional. And it's I don't think potentially problematic.
Yeah, I don't think it was intentional to put Antifa in the streets. Okay, that's the first thing. There was no intent there. I have kind of Bill Maher's opinion about Antifa. You know, you remember several years ago, he was very critical, kind of described the whole Antifa movement as privileged white kids going to college, bored for the summer. They dress up in black uniforms. It's almost like they saw too many Hunger Game movies and too many Star Wars movies. I kind of agree with him in that analysis of Antifa. But the reason I raised the Rick Perlstein issue is Nixonland, to me, it tells the story of what I believe is going to happen here. Right now, Biden is slightly ahead of Trump on the polls. You're going to see that reverse itself, and here's why. Perlstein and Nixonland talked about why did Nixon win in the biggest landslide election in American history? Why did that happen? And he analyzes it very well. He says, look, it was a combination of people's fear. They saw the Weathermen, they saw the SDS, they saw the Black Panthers in the street, they saw the Vietnam War protest. They were aware of the counterculture, the left-wing counterculture that was developing, the drug scene in America. All of these things scared the bejesus out of mom and pop middle America. And you know who showed up at the polls? Mom and pop. There weren't enough votes to balance out the fear factor. Another thing, and you know, you talk about Roger Ailes a lot, not Roger Ailes, but Lee Atwater. Lee Atwater, who worked with Karl Rove, engineered all that for Nixon. You know who's in the White House right now engineering Trump? Karl Rove.
Right. And, you know, there's obviously Perlstein is phenomenal with that analysis, but you also do have to wonder today, you know, when Nixon got elected, because he was running as the law and order guy, return to normalcy guy, Biden has now been the return to normalcy. And that's what the whole establishment Democratic Party has been. Let's get back to normalcy. And a lot of people said, yeah, okay, I guess that just means a president that doesn't tweet. So will they look at that now and say, oh, does that mean when we didn't have a pandemic, when we didn't have, you know, these massive protests happening? So is it going to turn against the incumbent? Because after all, whatever happens when you're the president kind of falls on you. So is the public going to blame Trump for this, or is he going to get things under control, or is his attempt to get things under control going to make things worse? You know, if the military is released here in the United States, that could be a whole different ballgame. And we've seen it before. We saw it happen in the early 90s when George H.W. Bush was president. He did activate beyond the National Guard. The U.S. Army went into Los Angeles when those riots were taking place. Bush didn't win re-election shortly after that. Was it related? The riots came up in the election, but we don't know if it played enough of a factor. So there's so many variables. It's going to be interesting.
I want you to think about what you just said. The criticism of Bush in those riots was he wasn't heavy-handed enough.
Right, and he waited too long.
He waited too long. He was a wimp. That was the whole image, Bush the wimp, okay? The difference here is the public loses respect for leaders that don't take action. Let me give you the dichotomy of that. Martin Luther King, incredible leader who understood that nonviolent protest works. Why was he so popular? Why was he so successful? Because the American public, even mom and pop in middle America, respected the fact that Martin Luther King was just saying, we don't blow up buildings. We don't burn down buildings. We don't shoot policemen in the back of the head. We don't beat up mom and pop store owners because they're trying to protect their business. We don't do all that. We have protests, but they're controlled protests. That's one type of leader. The other type of leader, and here I'm talking about the public's development or of respect for leadership.
Right.
The other side of it, though, this is the ugly side. The public says, okay, heavy-handedness is okay if you gain control of everything. That's what the Pearlstein book was about. That's what Nixonland was about. You had Nixon who was up front saying, I'm not going to tolerate it. It's just like his speech, it's just like Trump's speech in the Rose Garden yesterday, right? I'm going to call in the military. I'm going to gain control of this. Why is he doing these things? Why did he clear out the peaceful protesters in front of the White House? That was a show, Farron.
Yeah.
It was part of the Karl Rove agenda. It's the Lee Atwater agenda all over. Understand, Lee Atwater is the guy who started the Reagan presidential race in Philadelphia, Mississippi, where there is the worst civil rights record in the country.
Right.
Because it was a dog whistle issue. This is not dog whistle. This is Trump saying, damn it, you guys are in trouble. The Antifa, now you're terrorists. We've claimed that you're terrorists. We have the military in the streets. So there's two types of leadership, and both at two ends. And the interesting thing is, the public respects both kind,
right,
provided both get a good result.
But we also have to keep in mind, in terms of the protests and the peaceful protests, we had that for years, and what that culminated in was Trump going to Alabama and calling Colin Kaepernick an SOB. So they tried the peaceful protests to raise attention to this issue. And to be honest, they are still peacefully protesting. They are not the ones going out there and burning buildings and spray painting and doing all of that. That is a different
Is the media
animal.
picking it up, though?
No, and that's the problem, because the media is feeding into whatever people want to see.
Right.
And that's the other issue that we have today that we didn't necessarily have
24/7.
in the Nixon. Right. If you want to tune in and just see video of cops being the worst people on the planet, there is plenty of places to tune in, and that's all you see. If you want to only see people beating each other up, that's available too. So the media is playing a huge role in shaping the perspective.
No question.